This program is brought to you by realestate.com.au, Australia's #1 address in property. With more properties for sale than anywhere else, we make it easier.
Thanks for being with us here on Business Now. Well, let's check out the housing markets around the country. No surprise, really, with the federal election on, you generally find that the number of auctions around the place does fall. Across the country, there were 684 auctions. The total clearance rate, 73.8%, just off a little bit. You can see here in Sydney, 684 auctions. The clearance rate, 83.4%. There was also an extra 1,424 properties sold through private treaty. In Melbourne, it had the most auctions for the weekend, 253, but the clearance rate here was well off compared with where it's been, below 70%, and another 1,115 homes were sold privately. In Brisbane, just 31 auctions, clearance rate there 48%. So really, you can see the buyers really aren't out in the way in which they were. Another 1,196 private sales as well. Adelaide, 68 auctions, here a little better, 79% auction clearance rate and 300 private sales. And in Canberra, 48 auctions, a clearance rate of 83.3% and 73 homes sold privately. Let's bring in here Economist with REA Group and Flaherty, who joins me now. And that's all to be expected. It's what happens in the future that's really most important for these housing markets. And that's all about confidence from the government, the new government, and also the direction of interest rates.
Yeah, absolutely. We've just had a federal election, but I think that front of mind for most buyers at the moment is what are interest rates going to do next?
And so the second part about this is also not just that, but it's also the Albanese government, which has promised to become co-owners in first home buyers' properties. Just the testing of that scheme and how that's going to work, that's going to be another important test for the government and indeed for the parliament.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this progresses. So the Albanese government said that they will do 10,000 places per year. That's just a fraction of the first home buyer market, but it will be interesting to see, how readily this is taken up and how this ends up progressing over the years.
So just tell me that 10,000 places, does that really make a big difference here or there to the actual volume and to the demand for property in Australia?
Look, I would say that 10,000 is just a drop in the ocean. For a bit of context, last year we saw 150,000 first home buyers purchase. Now, this scheme as well is not just limited to first homeowners, it's to anyone who doesn't currently own property in Australia or overseas.
OK, so then the other aspect you talked about was really all about the interest rates and where they go. Now, you could start to see some of those auction clearance rates low. I think that's an aberration because of the election weekend. But that's the thing to keep watching for, isn't it? As soon as you start to see the market tilt towards the buyers and not towards the sellers, as it has been for the past 2 years, that's one of the other keys in terms of the direction of the market into the future.
Yeah, absolutely. We've just had our first interest rate rise last month. I think more people are expecting that interest rates will continue to rise throughout the year. Now, that might drive some people to actually make their purchases sooner rather than later so that they can lock in a fixed interest rate before rates do increase too much further.
And just very briefly, is there any feeling on houses versus apartments as to which ones are going to be more robust over this period?
Well, over the past 2 years, we've really seen a growing preference for houses over units. I think a lot of that is to do with the fact that people spend more time at home now than they did in the past, especially now with more people working from home. So, it'll be interesting to see if that trend reverses at all. We don't see any evidence of that at this stage.
I'll tell you what, Anne Flaherty from REA Group, always good to have on the program. Thanks for your time today.